let's begin. So again, sit up straight. Press your fingertips down, lengthen up through your side waist and your side chest. Move your arm bones back to bring your shoulder blades into your back. Keep your shoulder blades pressing into your back as you release your hands to your thighs and close your eyes. Descend your thighs. With even and equal weight, your two sitting bones lengthen up through the front of your body. Move your shoulder blades slightly closer together until you feel a broadness come to the front body. Roll your upper arms out. And one way you can feel what this feels like, it's hard to do with your hands resting, but is if you move your elbows closer to your rib cage, you feel your upper arms turn out, and that will help you lift your chest. Soften your neck and throat. Release your jaw. Rest your tongue into the base of your mouth. Take slow, even breaths. And then gently open your eyes. Come over to child's pose. Adho Mukha Virasana. Big toes together, knees apart. Extend your arms forward. Press your hips back towards your heels. Turn your upper arms out. So this turning of the upper arms out is, it can be overdone, of course, like anything. But it's helpful for releasing the neck, the muscles around the neck. You can even try to turn your upper arms in and feel how that compresses the muscles around the neck. And turn them out. The other thing I want you to focus on, other than this turning the upper arms out, is the deep flexion in the hips. As the torso and the thigh come closer together, this is repeated in a lot of the seated poses. Then come up to your hands and knees. Tuck your toes underneath. Press your palms into the floor, turn your upper arms out. And one way to do that here is to turn your inner elbow forward. Again, this can be overdone. So if your elbow is moving forward faster than your shoulder, then you're probably overdoing it. Then lift your hips high. Come into Adho Mukha Svanasana, downward facing dog. Press your thighs back. All right, now let your head hang. And notice if you, with your head hanging, if you still feel any kind of compression along the muscles of your neck. So if you do, try turning your upper arms out more. Now if you look at your elbows are pretty much, the inner elbow is what I mean, not the bendy bit, not the point, not the where the funny bone is, but the inner elbow, the eye of the elbow, they will probably face each other. If they face forward, you're probably doing it too much. If they face more towards the ground, you're doing it too little. This turning of the upper arm. At the same time, press your thighs back and then move your chest towards your thighs. Come forward to plank. Now this can also be done on the elbows. So if plank is hard on your wrist, you can come down to your elbows. Lift your thighs. Descend your buttocks. So the thighs lift and the buttocks descend. And then push back to downward facing dog. All right, and come down. Sit in Upavista Konasana, which is this pose. If you're rolling back like this, then you can take a blanket or a cushion and sit on the corner of the cushion or blanket or dog. All right. So we're gonna do the hip shuffle. So reach underneath your right leg, roll your right thigh back, bring your right foot into Baddha Konasana. Then hold on to the ankle and knee, bring it up into, this is Marichiasana leg. So this is the flexion that's needed, like in child's pose that I was talking about earlier. This deep flexion of the hip. Then move the ankle back and you're in half Virasana. Now you can lean a little bit to the side in this movement so that you can do it. All right, and then extend it out, Upavista Konasana. All right, on the other side, so reach underneath the left leg, pull it in, Baddha Konasana. If you want more in this, so for some people this is not enough, you can lean forward slightly and that will give you more of a stretch. You can also take this leg wider. All right, and then Marichiasana, deep hip flexion. And then Virasana. and take the leg out. All right. So we're going to go through those over and over and over again. So Baddha Konasana, Mrityasana, Virasana, Upavista Konasana. Baddha Konasana, Mrityasana, Virasana, Upavista Konasana. Baddha Konasana, Mrityasana. I've actually never heard these called anything else. So Virasana, I was trying to think of like the English names. Upavista Konasana. Baddha Konasana, Mrityasana, Virasana, Upavista Konasana. One more time. Baddha Konasana, Mrityasana, Virasana, Upavista Konasana. Baddha Konasana, Mrityasana, Virasana, Upavista Konasana. All right. Come on to your elbows. Palms down. Now here, turn your upper arms out. It is possible to do this. But even though, so now the forearm is locked in place, the shoulders are pretty much locked in place, so all the action has to come from the upper arm. Press your palms, not forward enough. Tuck your toes under. Come up into downward facing puppy. Press your forearms into the floor. If you need to, you can bend your knees so you can push your forearms into the floor and move your chest towards your thighs. If you don't need to bend your knees, then don't bend your knees. Let your head hang. Then walk your feet back a little bit and come into plank. Lift your thighs, descend your buttocks. Yeah. Walk your feet back in. Back into puppy. All right, bend your knees and come down. So now we're going to go from puppy, what I'm calling it today. We'll walk our legs out to plank, and then we're going to turn onto the elbow into side plank. All right. Yeah. All right. I'm gonna roll this stuff. Okay. So press your forearms into the floor, turn your upper arms out. Come into puppy. Then walk your feet back into plank. Turn onto your right side. Make sure you're continuing to press your forearm into the floor so your shoulder doesn't move ahead of your elbow. Side plank. Back to the center. turn onto your left foot. Press your forearm into the floor. Look it down and forward. Move your hips away from the floor. And back into plank. And then back into puppy. Or to the floor. And then into the floor. Child's pose. All right. This is something that I've been doing a lot of lately. I think we did it last Friday or the Friday before or something. Anyway, I have a blanket for my hips. This makes it easier. You don't have to have a blanket for your hips. And then leg lifts, essentially, Urdhva Prasarita Padasana. So you want, if anything, you want your pelvis tilted in, so your abdomen comes in. You don't want your pelvis tilted out, so your abdomen puffs up. So if you're using a blanket, use it that way. Squeeze your legs together, spread your toes. You can take your arms overhead if you have room. There's a wall there. So first, find 90 degrees, if you can. If you need to bend your knees a little bit to be at 90 degrees, that's okay too. Descend your abdomen. Squeeze your legs together. Press your upper arms into the floor if they're above your head. It's a little easier if you keep your arms by your sides. Not much. All right, and then keeping your left leg where it is, lower your right leg down to just off the floor and lift it back up. Lower down. Keep your abdomen down. Don't puff the belly, lift it back up. And continue in this vein until I say to stop. Or, until it's just no longer possible. So you can try with the exhale going down, or you can try with the exhale coming back up. They both have advantages. The most difficult part is when the leg is close to the floor. So that's when you want your abdomen deep in. Okay, now change legs. So in this pose, you have to focus on what your top leg is doing, as well as your abdomen. Your abdomen is probably more important if you had to choose which to focus on. So even though these are called abdominals, technically they're more, this one in particular is more of a psoas strengthener, which is an abdominal. I mean, it's an abdominal muscle, but in the meaning that it begins in the abdomen. But, all right, now squeeze your legs together. And then lower your legs where you have control. So it may not be all the way to the floor, especially if you're not using a blanket. So it may just be a little bit. It may be all the way to an inch off the floor. And the slower you go, actually, the more difficult it is, I think. So anyway, these are psoas strengthening movements, these leg lifts. This is basically something I need to do all the time. All right, bend your knees, hug them in. So that was a minute with each leg and a minute with together, if you want to know. All right, roll to your side. Okay. Now for the next thing, you can either use, a block, a pillow, a couple blankets. I'm going to use a block because it's easiest to see, I think. No, maybe not. Yeah, that bright teal blanket is probably the easiest to see. And I'm going to place that underneath my thighs, like this. And then we're going to do Chaturanga Dandasana, which is not a standing pose. So two things I want you to focus on Chaturanga Dandasana are the abdomen and the legs. The third probably would be the shoulders. But so even when you're down here on the ground, the legs are engaged and the abdomen lifts up. So start there with your hands either side of your lower ribs so that the arm makes a right angle. Then engage your quadriceps. Lift your abdomen a little way away from the floor. It may not leave the floor, but lift it up. Now roll your shoulders back and place your shoulder blades onto your back. Then press your hands down and lift your torso any amount. Squeeze your elbows in, turn your upper arms out, press your index finger and thumb down. Keep your quadriceps lifted, your abdomen lifted, and come down. So we didn't come up off the blankets or, block or whatever you're using. So to feel the thighs more, let's move the support a little bit forward. So now it's under the belly. This will be easier. You could have your hands back like this and not do anything. All right. So, but focus on the thighs. So they're not dropping down. Hands either side of the torso. You have to be far enough forward, I guess, with the blankets, you have to be far enough forward that your hands can be in the right place. Lift the thighs. All right. You can't really lift the abdomen here, or you can't feel it as much. Roll your shoulders back, place your shoulder blades on your back, turn your upper arms out. Press your hands into the floor. Now press your hands into the floor to the point where you feel something that's difficult, right? So you may not lift up, you may lift up, but just press your hands into the floor until you feel some kind of engagement in the arms. Kara, move your hands back. Yes, better. Yeah. All right, come down. One of my favorite things to watch is people coming down after Chaturanga. All right. So now you're going to leave that support where it is. So I know that last time, so first I'm going to measure. Last time this was where I could have my arms at a right angle, right? So that's where I want the support. And then I'm going to come up into plank. And you'll notice, if you're looking at me, that my shoulders are ahead of my wrist in plank. That's because if I actually did plank, my hands would be too far forward for chaturanga. It's a different kind of chaturanga. So I'm going to start here, keep my legs lifted, and slowly lower down to the support. All right? So measure first. Lift your thighs. Push up into plank, however you need to. All right, and notice how well, I know that some people have a different plank, but notice how your wrists are behind your shoulders in this one. Lift your abdomen. Yes, and then bend your elbows and slowly come down. Slow is a relative term. So, yeah. Plank. It teaches us many things about our ego. All right, one more time. So make sure that your arms make a right angle here before pushing up. Now push up, come up into plank, pull your abdomen in, lift your thighs up. Now come all the way up, if you can. There we go. And then bend your elbows, squeezing them in. Lower like a feather. Okay. Child's pose. You like that one, Tara? All right, our child's pose. I like this one. All right, so next is headstand. For those not doing headstand for whatever reason, if you have a yoga chair, you can do this. So I put it right at the top of my hips. I fold forward and do this supported dog. So my feet are lower than my hips, like this. If you do not have a chair, you can choose. You can do headstand prep, like this, and then rest when you need to. Or, even though this is a standing pose, you can do Prasarada Padottanasana. Marsha, I'd recommend you either do this or the chair. Yeah, she's doing the chair, okay. Or you can do a headstand. I hope everyone has something to do. So the only problem with the chair is it hits into your bladder. So it's a little later there, so. Oh, Cindy, you do have a chair. Excellent. You might want to fold that
Oh, I can see. That's good. You might want to fold that blanket up. Again, it's a little much. And if it's still too much for anyone on the chair, you can take a sticky mat or an extra blanket. That's it. Don't let your feet go up too high, Cindy. That's fine where they are. Just don't let them go up too high or you'll fall over. Those in headstand, turn your upper arms out. Those in headstand prep, turn your upper arms out. In whatever pose you're in, soften your neck and throat. So you're not gripping your jaw. This can cause problems in headstand. Notice what your tongue is doing. Is it pressing against your teeth? If it is, relax it. Yeah, that one does get a little old after a while, Cindy, I understand. All right, come down. As you come down from headstand, make sure you're pressing your forearms into the floor strongly.
All right. Now you have a choice. There's always a choice. This is America. All right. You can do L pose. There we go. Or I guess I'll leave it against this door. That was loud. Door wasn't all the way shut. Full arm bounce. Let's try that again. That's better. If you don't want to do either of those, you can bring your hands to the wall and lift one leg up. Elbows, straighten them. That's those. Especially your left elbow, Karen. See if you can straighten that one a little more. No, the other one. Maybe I'm not getting left right. The one closest to the chair. Yeah. Yes. Cindy, walk your feet in just a smidge. Yes, there we go. Try to lift your torso up a little higher. Yes, even your hands could go up a little higher. Yeah. Did you try the other leg? Or not? Which way is the other leg? I think it's this one. They look straighter that way. carried on. Don't know why. Yeah, maybe it's just the angle. All right, come down. Or not, go out, yeah.
I think it's because I'm less in a lordosis, you know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
Because I have a very flexible lumbar spine, so when I go up all the way, I might not be as in control. Where there I'm forced to lengthen in my lumbar spine.
Oh, okay.
That might have an effect on my arms.
Well,
yeah.
With the amount your elbows come together, you know, I'm not really against you bending your elbows a little bit. It's just harder to stay up.
What I'm trying to do is align the muscles on my upper arms better.
Yeah.
You know, trying to get that inner, outer, so it's lying on the bone better.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, you know, it's limited a little bit with Zoom. I can't like go over there and grab your arms and see what they're doing.
But I really appreciate this work, chaturanga and everything, because as you can see, I'm very weak in the upper body.
Yeah.
I
Most
need
women are. Yeah.
Need to do it.
So what you need to do is to have a father like mine. It's like, there's 70-pound bags of cement in the truck. I want you to unload it.
Thank you, Dad.
Okay. Yeah. Okay, what's next? Oh, Chatouche. So, because we're going to do shoulder stand and then we're going to do the seated poses. So, bring your feet next to your hips. Line your back. So sometimes this is called bridge. Press down with the big toe side of your foot on both feet. Bring your hands alongside your hips. Lift your hips halfway. Roll your shoulders under. Press down more with your feet to lift your hips up higher. If this hurts the back of your neck, lift your chin and see if that helps. If that does not help, have a blanket under your shoulders, but not under your head. And that should help. Now, press your upper arms down to lift the sides of your rib cage. Press your heels down to lift your hips. Again, notice what your tongue is doing. And make sure that it's not pressing against anything. So it's just resting in your mouth. That'll keep your jaw soft, and your jaw being soft will keep your neck soft. Come down. All right, so the choices are Sarvangasana or Setubandha Sarvangasana, which is this pose. This also can be done with bolsters, but 2 blocks is the fastest. So set up for what you're gonna do. If you wanna sweat more, then don't use blocks. Your goal is to sweat. You should probably take an exercise class. Nah, there's nothing wrong with sweating in yoga. I like hard work. So I'm setting up for Sarvangasana. can do bridge with a block. Yeah. There we go. It seems bridge with the block is the preferred choice today. That's quite all right. Or with bolsters. So yeah, you can use a bolster. Have it lengthwise. So I don't have a bolster here. That tells you something about my practice. But so if this was the bolster, this block, you'd be here with your shoulders on the floor. And then your legs stretched up. Otherwise, up you go into Sarvangasana. Yeah. Oh, I like that view, Bob. Yeah, I can see your elbows. I can see your torso. Yes. All right. So after you've established yourself in whatever pose you're in, notice how your neck feels. Now in Sarvangasana, there is a stretch that comes to the back of the neck. But if it's too much, you can try again where you lift your chin away from your chest, both in Sarvangasana and in Setu Bandha, and see if that helps. If it doesn't, have a blanket under your shoulders or more blankets under your shoulders if you're in Sarvangasana. And again, check in with your tongue. Is it pressing against your teeth? Is it causing your jaw to tighten? Or is your jaw tightening causing your neck to tighten up? Soften your eyes. In my own practice, I frequently do this with my eyes closed. Partially because the light's on the ceiling, but also it's just a relaxing pose, or it becomes one eventually. Also, your eyes being closed helps you relax your jaw. Move your thighs back and your hips forward if you're in Sarvangasana. If you're in Setu Bandha, roll your thighs in. Actually, everyone roll your thighs in. Those on a block, bend your knees. I'll give you different instructions, Cindy, in a second. All right, lift your hips and lower the block, although some of you already have. All right, Cindy, you're going to lift your hips and move the bolster towards your feet. So make sure that there's space between your feet until your hips are on the floor. Now cross your legs on the bolster. Correct. All right, those in shoulder stand, roll down. Roll off your support. and sit in Dandasana. Press your thighs down. So if you need blankets to sit in Dandasana without leaning back, sit on a blanket or two. If you can, so when I press my wrist into the floor, my shoulders I have to collapse my chest a little bit to get my wrist down. So for me, I come onto my fingertips and lift up. But for some of you, that will be enough. You'll have longer arms. You will not be members of the T-Rex Club. Some of you can push down and lift your whole hips up. I need a lot of help to do that. All right. Now, take your right ankle over your left knee. Spread the toes of your right foot. Then take your left hand and reach between your toes. All right. Then, so you're spreading your toes, and now you're going to stretch your hips at the same time. Bend your other leg and lift your foot up next to you. So you still are holding onto your toes. That's coming next. All right. For those with open hips, you can take your bottom leg over and stack them up. And then you have another hand and another foot. But if you don't have open hips, then stay with the first one. Bob, take your bottom leg towards the camera. Forward. Yes. Yeah. All right. Release your feet. Come back to Dandasana. Then take, that was the leg I just did. Yes, it was. Take your left leg onto your right thigh. Reach in between your toes. Yeah. And then bend your right leg. You can support yourself with your left hand. And actually, this gets more comfortable. Cross over. So now you're in a pose at the, I've heard it called fire log or double pigeon. This is practically an everyday pose for me, mostly for my feet, a little bit for my hips, but mostly for my feet, especially when I'm allowed to go hiking, which I haven't been allowed. Well, I've been allowed, but it's smoky out there still. All right, release your feet, extend your legs. Lift your chest. All right, reach underneath your right knee. Roll your right thigh back like you're going to do Baddha Konasana. And then you're going to pull your heel in close to its own thigh. And then you actually want the foot, I'm going to move this leg out of the way so you can see. You want the foot turned up to the ceiling. So what you can do is roll this calf out, and that will help you turn that foot to the ceiling, the bottom of the foot to the ceiling. All right, now it's going to disappear under my thigh. Okay, first turn towards the bent knee side and lift. Press your straight leg down. Then turn towards your straight leg and turn further around. See how far you can turn. This would be your left. Then line up. So here, my torso is lined up with my leg. I'm trying to turn more and more to the straight leg, and it actually just turns me straight to the straight leg. And I'm gonna reach forward, you reach forward with your right arm and come forward. If this pains your bent knee, you can have I should have mentioned this before, you can have just a little piece of something, a washcloth works great, behind your knee. Washcloth strap, that usually is enough for this pose. You can also, you can put something underneath your knee if your knee is floating. Your knee isn't floating, Karen, I don't think. It's pretty close to the ground. I mean, the knee will never go down unless you have really thin legs. So, I mean, there's, anyway. All right, then pull yourself any amount forward. So the first thing that should touch your leg is your abdomen. If your abdomen touches, see if you can get your chest to touch. All right, come back up. Come back to Dandasana. Turn this way. So that's Janu Shirshasana, sometimes called head of the knee pose. So if you think of the head of the knee pointing straight up, or this head of the knee going that way, reach underneath your left leg, roll your left thigh back, bring your heel in, and then see if you can roll something towards the ground. My foot already points to the ceiling, but this helps some people. Helps me a little bit. All right. Now turn towards the bent knee. Press the straight leg down. Then turn towards the straight leg and further to the left. No, to the right. Sorry, my bad. I don't know which one's which. Then reach forward with your left hand. And if you can grab the outside of the foot, grab the outside of the foot. If you can't grab the outside of the foot, grab the outside of the calf. Then abdomen, chest, chin, forehead. I didn't mention this on the other side, and that's a fault of mine because I was distracted. But the bent leg turns out. So see if you can get more of the bent leg outer thigh towards the ground. That'll give you more of a stretch right here in the upper back, in the lower back. Then come back up. All right, back to Dandasana. So first leg again. So actually we'll do something different first. We'll stretch the hips a little more. So take your legs wide. It doesn't have to be that wide. Then you're gonna put your right foot in the same position it was before. So you want the bottom of the foot to face the ceiling as much as possible. And then the heel is gonna be as close to its own thigh as possible. But we're gonna put the other leg in, so just, all right. Now roll the left leg out and put the left top of the foot on the right instep. So your feet are crossed. All right. It looks fairly comfortable for everyone. That's usually not the case. Usually someone looks uncomfortable. All right. If you're just too comfortable, you're going to bring your abdomen down to your feet. And then maybe your head to the floor. My head doesn't go to the floor, but Bob's might. So you're just walking your hands further and further forward, but keep your hips back. So don't let your hips roll up as you come forward. Walk your hands back in. Stretch your legs out. Reach underneath your left leg. Roll your left thigh out. Bring your left foot in. Reach underneath your right leg. Roll your right thigh out. Bring your right foot on top of your left. So Karen, if that knee doesn't go down, you're going to stay upright. And then possibly coming forward. Press your outer thighs down. And then lift yourself back up. Back, stretch your legs out. Open up the backs of your knees. And back to Dandasana. All right, reach underneath your right knee. Roll your right thigh out. Bring your right heel in close to its own thigh. And this time, take your legs a little bit further apart. All right. Okay, now you can just watch for a second. So we're going to turn to the bent knee and come forward. And then we're going to stay forward as we walk around towards the straight leg. And then this hand, which is the closest one to the straight leg, turns up. And I grab my foot. It's easy. You just grab your foot. Then I get my armpit as close to my knee as possible and take my other arm over my head. All right? So turn towards your bent knee. Yeah. And then come forward. Now keep low and walk around to your straight leg. Then this will be your left elbow next to your left knee. Turn your left hand up and grab your foot. Now take your right hand to your hip and rotate your chest. So if you have shoulder problems, you might keep your hand here, or you can reach it out over your head, extending your fingertips. Now eventually the arm comes down here and you place the back of the head on the leg. Then lower back down to the floor, towards forward, and lift yourself back up. All right, straighten your right leg, bend your left leg. Turn to the left. So that's Parivrita Janushirshasana, which I'm not even sure if I'm allowed to teach. I no longer care. All right, then lower down over the knee and then come forward. So crawl yourself forward. And then over to your right leg. Keep your right elbow down, turn your right hand up, grab your foot. I think everyone's grabbing their foot. And then take your left hand to your hip, rotate your chest. You can either keep your hand here or take it out over the side. Turn your torso more and more to the ceiling. And then turn towards the floor, come forward, and back up. Back to, well, we didn't start here, but Upavista Konasana, press your thighs down. You might feel a little more open here.
Question, Mary.
Uh-huh.
What is the spine doing? Is it a side curve, or is it like Trikonasana where we're going over laterally?
The closest it's like is
Gate pose?
Yes.
Okay. So one side is shorter than the other.
One side's shorter than the other, and you're twisting.
Okay, cool.
You're almost like, it's also done in this pose, although this pose is a little harder. So if I twist, I'm actually turned toward this leg, and I'm going over this way. It's a really strong twist. I just looked up at the ceiling, and now I'm bright. The lights here are really bright. Totally blind now. But that's where you're going. You're going into as much twist, and we haven't done any twist yet, but you're going into as much twist as possible. And then, so that's why we come low and kind of trick into it rather than trying to twist and go back. It's harder that way. All right, where was I going? We have so many more seated poses. There are so many. So I'm going to sit on a blanket because that's what I need to do for the next twist, which is Bharvajasana 1. So Radvajasana 1, sorry. So I'm gonna have it underneath, you're gonna have it underneath your right hip, your blanket, and take your legs to the left. Like this. So the way the feet look is like this, so that your left leg is on top of your right foot. Okay. All right, and your knees are lined up. So if you're leaning this way, you need more height. Some days I need more height than others, especially depending on how much I move my flesh out of the way. All right, turn to your right. So the first time, just turn to your right. Did I do it wrong? There we go. I did this wrong. I think your feet are the right direction. Yes. Okay. So descend your left hip as you turn to the right. All right, from here, look over your left shoulder. See if you can turn a little more. And look over your right shoulder. Return to the front. Now take your right hand and grab your upper left arm. All right. And then you're going to take your left arm and try to swing it over your right leg. And this will not go well for me, but so I can't straighten the left arm here, but if you can grab the elbow, then grab the elbow, because this does something for your shoulder, even if you can only bring your hand to the first leg. All right. Descend your right hip, your left hip, and then turn. Now, look over your left shoulder, the one towards the camera. Yeah. And you might feel how this does something a little different to the neck. Then look over your right shoulder and return to the front. Stretch your legs out and take them over to the other side. You don't have to sit on something if you don't have something, or if you just don't need it. Almost everyone needs it, especially those with thick thighs. All right, turn to your left. So get the turn here. Lift your torso as you turn. You're going to get more turn that way. But as you lift your torso as you turn, descend your right hip. Now turn your head to the right. And turn your head to the left. Bring your head on straight. Return to the front. Take your left arm around behind, grab your right arm. Fling it across. Wherever you can grab, and turn. Now turn your head to the right. And turn your head to the left. And come back to center. All right, I was planning on teaching Vrajasana 2. So I'm going to try to do that really quickly. All right. So in this one, the left leg is still in Virasana. And the right leg, you're either going to put it like this, where it's just sitting in front of you and you're going to turn, or you're going to place it in Padmasana, if that's possible. All right. Then take your right arm around behind and grab your left upper arm. Because most people won't be able to grab their foot. So lately I've been practicing, since I can't grab my foot, with using the same Vrajasana arm and just grabbing my leg. And turn. Turn to your right with your right leg in Padmasana, your left leg in Virasana. If your knee won't go down, Soko, sit on a blanket. This leg. If it'll go down, it's fine. Even if it goes down when you turn, that's fine. But if it's lifted in the air, oh, okay. Yeah, it's fine. Yes. Okay, so that's a different one, Cindy. I'm okay with that one. That's, yeah, I mean, if that feels better for you. No big deal. Just twist, do a seated pose. All right, come back to the center. Stretch your legs out. All right, bring your right leg into Virasana. The left leg into either Janushirshasana or half Padmasana. You want your knees down. Then reach around with your left hand, grab your right upper arm, and then turn to your left as you reach down with your right arm and grab your leg. If you can grab your foot, I think Bob might be able to grab his foot, you can grab your foot. It's just for the laziness of not wanting to go get a strap. But it works, it works. All right, return to the center. Stretch your legs forward. Press the backs of your legs down. Come forward. Hashimotonasana. Stretch the backs of your legs. And then come back up for an extremely short Shavasana. So, lie back, roll your shoulders under. I don't have enough room here to stretch my legs out, so I'm just gonna bring my knees together and my feet apart. Oops. Ignore that. We've got another minute. Rest. There we go. All right, deepen your breath. Bend your knees. Roll to your side. Roll a little further to your side and lift yourself back up to seated. Take your arms wide, lift your chest. Bring your palms together in front of your heart. Think of something you're grateful for. Namaste. It's very difficult to get through the seated poses. But we'll do some more next week.
Great. And can we do chaturanga again?
Sure. I don't think I've ever heard that.
I don't really want to. I hate that pose, but I need it.
Yeah.
So, you gotta do what you need.
Yeah.
Thanks, Mary. I love the